It's Wrestling Observer Live, and we're live on this Saturday at 1-800-878-PLAY. 1-800-878-7529. We're live 7 days a week, even though Brian doesn't mention it. Thank you, Mike. Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific. Sundays with Andrew Zarin, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 Pacific. And Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. More exciting than Taylor Swift dropping Midnights. More exciting than Black Adam opening up theaters. More frustrating than a Tony Khan interview or Liv Morgan dressing up like Harley Quinn 2 years too late. Jim Valley, the effing king of recovery, back again because of the fans and giving you a great big Uncle Howdy. Uncle Howdy appearing in a brief video on Smackdown Friday night, wearing a mask that sort of looks like a cross between Guy Fawkes and Hulk Hogan. Speculation is that it's Vinny Marseglia, better known as Vincent, from ROH, but that name, Uncle Howdy, sounds like a 1950s kids TV host, or maybe a relative of SpongeBob. Hey, Patrick, let's go see your Uncle Howdy. You know, I think it's obvious that we're not going to see Bray Wyatt and his family actually wrestle until, I would say, maybe Royal Rumble at the soonest. They may even drag this out until WrestleMania. You know, Tony Khan has taken a lot of crap from interviewers, being frustrated. He frustrated Ariel Helwani with the CM Punk situation. He's had locker room contract issues. But Tony Khan started a trend in wrestling now, going slow. Gone are the days of Vince Russo Crash TV, of angles being done in one TV show, or shocking turns. Now things are drawn out, and we see it all over wrestling. We'll talk about that, plus NXT Halloween Havoc, Black Adam, and has The Rock peaked? Talk about that and more. Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live. It's Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. As you know, I do the Pacific Rim Pro Wrestling Podcast with Fumi Saito, Japan's leading historian, author, and journalist. And when he was a teenager, he was an exchange student in Minnesota, covered the AWA in the early 80s. And we're going to talk about the AWA episode of Tale from the Territories. I don't know if you saw that episode. I don't know. It didn't feel like the Memphis episode. They told wild stories, but there was a certain warmth and fondness to it. And there was just something that was missing, I felt, in the AWA one. But Ken Patera, of course, tells the infamous McDonald's story. And Fumi was in the United States and actually visited Mr. Saito in prison. It's actually a very interesting story if you haven't heard before. We'll talk about that and his AWA experience on the next Pacific Rim. Also, if you can see on YouTube, or you can see on my channel, I'm wearing my Joe Doring t-shirt today. Joe Doring, of course, battling cancer again. It has come back. Joe Doring, a former All Japan Triple Crown champion, most recently in Impact. And I bought my t-shirt to support Joe Doring. I hope you do too. You can get a t-shirt to support him in his latest battle as he kicks cancer's ass. And all the best to Joe Doring. What a very nice man. You know, wrestling may have now more nice people in it than ever. And that's a good thing. For example, Willow Nightingale. Willow Nightingale is all elite after defeating Layla Gray on Friday's Rampage. Tony Schiavone entered the ring and officially announced that Nightingale was all elite, even showing the graphic on the screen. I'll tell you what, from her independent days and everything, Willow is just so likable, isn't she? Her enthusiasm is genuine and contagious. I feel like you could be in the worst mood, and suddenly Willow appears on your screen. Suddenly you're happy again. You just always have Willow around. Also excited that my girl, Jungle Kiona, who's been in the United States for a little while, wrestled Riho on AEW Dark. I hear it was a great match. I'm excited to see that. Jungle Kiona is going to be about 3 hours away from me in Portland, Oregon next weekend. And I'm debating, should I go? Should I not go? I'm like, it's a long drive, but I love Jungle Kiona. I can't decide. We'll see if I decide to go and see Jungle Kiona. But if you're nearby, you have the opportunity, go see Jungle Kiona. She's my girl. Love Jungle. Jungle. Hey, on Smackdown last night, a couple of things I want to talk about. Liv Morgan defeated, or was Sonya Deville with the double countout? Sonya Deville, I like Sonya, she's talented, but she's at the bottom of the booking totem pole. Morgan and Deville seemed to kind of struggle. The first part of the match picked up, then they did a countout finish, and fans booed until Morgan gave Deville a superplex onto the chairs. Cole and Barrett pushed that Liv Morgan is a new person since losing the title to Ronda Rousey, and Morgan kept smiling as Deville beat her down. Her outfit even had a Harley Quinn vibe. And what year is this? Can someone check? It's 2022, isn't it? The Harley Quinn movie was, 2 years ago? A lot of people backstage like Liv Morgan. And like I said, it's good to have nice people in wrestling. And that is great. We need more positive influences. But on camera, can you tell me, who is Liv Morgan? Is she the girl next door? Is she inspirational because she was at the bottom of the booking card for so long and became the women's champion? Is she now Harley Quinn, 2 years too late? She's more like Alexa Bliss light. We've kind of already seen this. Liv Morgan needs her own unique and original on-screen persona. Every WWE superstar has a branding statement. You're the head of the table. You're the monster among men. And Liv Morgan is. Exactly. She has no catchphrase, no branding statement, no persona. She needs a persona. She hasn't had one. This Harley Quinn thing seems very dated. Speaking of dating, on AEW Rampage, the Acclaim defeated the Varsity Athletes to retain the championship and win back the scissoring trademark to the surprise of nobody. You know, Daddy Ash and the Acclaim, they're way, way over. Later in the show, Jade Cargill came out, sat in a chair, and held up the show. Nyla Rose, as you know, has the TNT title. And then she came on screen driving a car. She said she had the keys to Jade's car. It was a hatchback. I guess it was some sort of a Cadillac. I don't know cars, but either way, it's a hatchback. And I'm sure in real life, Jade Cargill drives a regular car to save money like every wrestler. That's fine. But on TV, Jade Cargill, the character, needs to drive a big-ass, expensive car. And I know it's a small detail, but WWE would not have done that. She would have driven some expensive, big-ass Cadillac or some Maserati or something expensive. And that's what that bitch drives with the baddies. She's high class all the way. Jade Cargill, the character, does not drive a hatchback. You know, something else. Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose is not the native beast. I've said this before. You know what? Nyla Rose is all around Twitter and on Instagram. She is hilarious. And a lot of characters, when they don't work out, especially in WWE, it's like a punishment to become a comedy figure. Well, you suck at everything else. You get to be a comedy figure. It's a bad thing. But I think that because, like when Nyla Rose did the shark costume, she stole the show. She was like Left Shark at the Super Bowl. She has great comedic instincts. I think she's very funny. And I think instead of being the native beast, which doesn't quite work, I think she needs to be her natural, appealing, fun, happy-go-lucky, funny self. She would be a great guest with Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live. She'd be fun to watch the Housewives with. She needs to advance and do something like that. She needs to not be Nyla Rose. She needs to be funny Nyla Rose. You know, AEW Rampage, it doesn't get great ratings because it doesn't have events. People watch TV now for events, for moments. But if you want to spend a Friday night watching some solid wrestling, AEW Rampage is a nice little show. Hey, coming up next, I want to talk about Halloween Havoc and The Rock. It's Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer. Live Sports Byline Broadcasting Network back again, as always, because of the fans. You know, when I started this Saturday show, there were not that many pay-per-views or PLEs on Saturday. We had Saudi Arabia, and then we had All In. There were just occasional shows. And now it's like every weekend there's a Saturday show infringing on my monologue time. I got things I gotta go off on. Pointless, unnecessary things. But no, I've got PLEs now that are in my way, like NXT Halloween Havoc. You know, it's funny, I watch NXT, and I knew that Halloween Havoc was coming up, but it's on Tuesday. And on Tuesdays, Saturdays seem like they might as well be a week away or a month away. I was watching Smackdown. They had a graphic that Halloween Havoc was set. I was like, Halloween Havoc's tomorrow. Halloween Havoc's today. NXT Halloween Havoc. Did you know that? I don't know. I'll talk about the concept of Halloween Havoc in a second. It's also difficult because I know a lot of people time shift. It's Saturday. You have a different schedule. With Brian during the week, you have a set schedule. Also, Brian's at noon. Maybe you're eating lunch on your lunch break, whatever. This is at a different time. You're not used to it. You listen to it on Sundays or maybe on your Monday commute. So if I preview this stuff or predict it, it's already happened. It puts me in a weird position. So I try not to spend too much time on these events because I'm very well aware of how people use this show. But I still got to run down it because we're live on the radio, we're live in other places, and there are people who listen right away. Very smart people, very handsome people who listen right away, and we appreciate you. Unlike those slackers who wait. Anyway, ambulance match. Damon Kemp versus Julius Creed. And this is unusual. There's a stip for the ambulance match that if Kemp wins, Julius's brother Brutus will leave NXT. It's interesting if they would split up the Creed brothers. What are they? I mean, I don't know what they do. Are they bringing one back? They get to do a mask gimmick? I mean, I don't know what they do with. I don't know. It's a very puzzling stipulation now, as far as I'm concerned. Halloween Havoc, spin the wheel, make the deal. Apollo Crews versus Grayson Waller. You know, I feel bad. I feel bad for Grayson Waller because there's like a million guys on the roster that look like him. I know that he's Australian or whatever, but still he just has this look like everybody else. He's got to do something to stand out more than he does. A weapons match. Cora Jade takes on Roxanne Perez. This feels like an opportunity to use the skateboard. A ladder match for the vacated NXT North American Championship. Carmelo Hayes, Wes Lee, Nathan Frazier, Ora Mensa, and Von Wagner. Ladder match to crown new champion. NXT Women's Championship, Mandy Rose versus Alba Fire. And for the NXT Championship, a triple threat match. Braun Breaker versus Ilya Dragunov and JD McDonagh. You know, in pretty much every way, WWE was superior to WCW. DX didn't hurt the business like the NWO did. You could argue that Hell in a Cell or Elimination Chamber are both superior to the War Games concept. But one thing I think WCW did better is Halloween. Halloween Havoc, you could make the case, were arguably WCW's best pay-per-views. Yeah, they had some weird ones, like the Chamber of Torture, where they electrocuted Abdullah the Butcher. But there were some great, great moments in Halloween Havoc. Yes, Starrcade was WCW's WrestleMania, but Halloween Havocs, I think generally speaking, were the superior cards. And Halloween, as a holiday right now, it's ridiculous. I think Halloween is getting up there as far as being as big, almost as big as Christmas. I mean, you see all these theme parks, and they all have scare houses, and you pay an extra fee. You go to Universal Studios half the day, then they kick everybody out, and you got to pay the same price to get in to Halloween Horror Nights. And there's so many people in the park, you don't get to see everything in the freaking park. It's incredible. Plus, you got all the scary food they make people buy. You got all the merchandise. Plus, you can pay to buy a lanyard that says, "Don't scare me." There's so much. There are now car washes where you pay extra to go through a haunted car wash. You got to take the kids now to go to a pumpkin patch. Plus, all the Spirit Halloween stores that replace all the broke dick Circuit Cities or Montgomery Wards or whatever that closed down in your neighborhood. Those are huge. All the costumes, all the parties, Halloween is a multi-million-dollar holiday now. It's incredible how big all the movies, all the goth kids, all the things that happen now around Halloween. I've got a friend who likes theme parks in England. He had to wait 2 hours to get into some scare house. It wasn't even a major theme park. It's ridiculous how big Halloween has become. And if there's one holiday you would think that would go hand in hand with pro wrestling, it's Halloween. But WWE traditionally has done goofy Halloween, silly Halloween, superstars bobbing for apples, wearing silly Halloween costumes, while WCW went for spooky Halloween. You'd think with a roster with Undertaker, Mankind, Papa Shango, you would think that spooky Halloween would happen in WWE. But no. That's the thing, is WWE does goofy Halloween, candy, and silly, and stuff like that. And that's why NXT Halloween Havoc feels very light. It's weird to have a heritage brand from 20 years ago, like WCW, and have that label put on young superstars. It just feels incongruous. I would much rather have WWE Halloween Havoc. I mean, here we are. We're in October, the spooky season. Yeah, Bray Wyatt's back, but we've got 1 week left until Halloween. And what are we promoting? We're promoting the show in Saudi Arabia, Crown Jewel. Nothing spooky. The only thing that's been sort of spooky is the whole thing with The Miz being stalked. But how spooky is that with Dexter Loomis? It's more creepy than spooky, to be honest. WWE does not do spooky Halloween very well. Yeah, they've got some goth characters with the Judgment Day, I guess. But they don't do Halloween. And I don't know why, because Halloween and pro wrestling go hand in hand. I guarantee you, we're going to see some Christmas match. We'll see some sort of tie-in with Christmas. You always see Christmas. But for some reason, WWE does not really do Halloween. And I don't know why. They've sent Halloween Havoc and the Halloween theme down to NXT. Your thoughts? Tweet me at Jim Valley or 1-800-8. You know the phone number. I don't have to tell you. Hey, The Rock, Black Adam. Here's a question for you. Has The Rock peaked? We'll answer it next. Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer. All right. Wrestling Observer Live, Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. Black Adam, The Rock's latest vehicle, opens this weekend. Critics don't seem to like it. It's got 49% on Rotten Tomatoes, while fans gave it 90%. It's estimated to open this weekend, make about $50 million, made 25 last night. I think the 50 million estimate sounds a little low, but I could be wrong. Now listen very carefully. I love The Rock. Dwayne Johnson is handsome. He's got incredible instincts. He's very funny. I think he's great. I believe he's the greatest wrestler of all time. Yes, his career only lasted 6 years, but it's sort of like a gifted student who graduated from college at the age of 12. Rock still did everything. He just did it faster. Great matches, great promos, drew huge over a period of time. He checks all of the boxes. And I think 6 years is long enough. He came back and drew money. He's done that a number of times. Show business is a rough business. The public is very fickle. We love somebody 1 minute and we hate you the next. Hootie and the Blowfish. In the 90s, their debut album sold like 14 million copies. Then they were a punchline. It's funny, they sold 14 million albums and suddenly nobody liked Hootie and the Blowfish. Darius Rucker tried a number of genres before finally landing years later as a country star. Now, Hootie is touring again to millions of adoring fans. Look at Blink 182. They're having a resurgence. They were huge in the late 90s, early 2000s. Now they've come back and their concert tickets are in such demand. They should be called Blink 682 because of the ticket prices. But that's show business. And based on that, I wonder, has The Rock peaked? He's made a ton of popular movies. He's done 1 million interviews. He's up there as one of the greatest hosts ever on Saturday Night Live. But people have seen the act. There's the meme of Rock wearing a button-up short-sleeve tan shirt in 4 pictures, and that's 4 different movies. There's the meme about The Rock always being in the jungle in his movies. And don't get me wrong, he'll always be The Rock. He's cemented as one of the biggest stars ever in wrestling and ever in show business. He's this generation's Arnold Schwarzenegger. And look, I'm sure WrestleMania in Los Angeles will be a huge success. It will make millions. You just said it. And millions. But would it have been a bigger deal had it come sooner? It kind of feels like we've seen the act. Don't get me wrong. It will get publicity. But the publicity will be Rock has gone back to wrestling again. It's going to feel like, well, John Cena was the big deal. We've already kind of seen this. Will Roman Reigns feel second to Cena and The Rock? It just feels like Rock has reached that stage in his career where it's okay to criticize him, and you'll see more and more of it. For a long time, it's like David Letterman. Years, Letterman could do no wrong. He was a late night critic darling. Then he got screwed out of the Tonight Show. Jay Leno was the bad guy. Letterman was hilarious. He was number one in late night. He was inspired. Then he hosted the Oscars. And suddenly, it was okay to criticize Letterman. And then Leno had the show with Hugh Grant, and he was off to the races, and he never looked back. And that's another thing. Jay Leno, number one in late night for what, 15, 20 years? Something like that. Huge. Generated so much money for a TV network back when you can do that. And now, how much attention does Jay Leno get? You can be big and then you fall down. And look, I think it's like Arnold. Arnold had movies in the 90s, Last Action Hero, not so much. He made Eraser, still a hit, but not huge. I think Rock will be fine, but he'll never be that guy that can make billions on Fast and Furious, maybe in a few years after it goes away, maybe on his comeback. But it feels like Rock has peaked, and his WWE spent all this time, all of this energy on Roman Reigns and this huge reign, only to have the Pinnacle be a celebrity who's no longer at his peak. It's almost like in voting. Rock has hardcore fans who love him. There's probably people who don't. There's always those people. It's like Democrats and Republicans. And the people that turn the tide are the independents. So the independent fans, the people that go from trend to trend to trend, or the kids coming up, Rock's old. I want someone my age. That happens to everyone. I'm not ripping on the guy. I'm just saying at some point in the life of every performer in show business, that happens. Happened to Elvis, happened to Frank Sinatra. It literally happens to everybody. And Rock is not going to screw up and do something inappropriate and lose his fan base. He's not going to be one of those people. It's just going to be that he's been around for so long and we've seen the act. Like Jack Nicholson, who's the same character in every movie. The Rock is Dwayne Johnson in every movie. And just like Black Adam, people have been talking about a Black Adam movie for years, 10, 15 years. And have talked about Dwayne Johnson is the perfect Black Adam. But this feels like it's a little late. We sort of kind of have superhero fatigue from all the Marvel movies, and DC movies have been so hit and miss. Joker, I guess, I never saw it, but it was very popular. It's supposed to be great. The Batman was great. The first Wonder Woman was great. Aquaman was adequate. Wonder Woman 84, yeesh. Justice League, eh. You know, DC movies have been so inconsistent. It's almost like the Black Widow movie. We all wanted a Black Widow movie, but not after, spoiler alert, after we already knew the character died. We already know the ending. It just feels like this is a little late. It'll still be successful. But I mean, the movie's opening in October. Do big movies open in October? You know what opens in October? Halloween and Chucky movies. Jason, Michael Myers, Chucky, Blair Witch. movies open in October. Not superhero. Superhero movies open in summer, maybe spring, or December. Those are your superhero holiday time, your big movie times. The fact this didn't open in those times, that says something too. Granted, it's not January. If a movie opens in January, don't go see that movie, ever, 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 ever. But I just wonder, has Rock peaked? And what effect will it have on WWE? Understand, I'm the guy that called CM Punk weeks before it happened. I call out trends as I see them. And I have a feeling you're going to hear in the near future other people ask the same question. Maybe they'll ask it closer to WrestleMania. But I have a feeling they're going to ask the same question. And you know who asked that question first? I did. But understand, I'm not ripping on the guy. Even though he once told me he was going to kick my ass. Did I tell you this story? So Rock was promoting Rock at Walking Tall here in Seattle. And I go cover the press conference. And no one told me that this was when The Rock, his people, were telling him to avoid wrestling and separate from wrestling. No one told me wrestling was off limits. So I go to the press conference and I'm like, I need a local tie-in. So I know that Rock's dad used to wrestle in the Northwest. So I ask him, hey, your dad used to wrestle here. Did you ever come to Seattle as a kid? And he gets really uptight. He's like, no. Then he talks briefly about Sandy Bar's flea market down in Portland. And I was like, why is The Rock so mad at me? I don't know. So afterwards, he's kind of mingling around and I go up to him and I ask him for a liner. If he can say, can I lay the Smackdown on Jim Valley's little candy ass? And he looks at me and he glares at me. He's legit pissed. No smile. And he goes, how about if I say I'm going to kick your MFing ass? And he didn't say MFing. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Because I don't know. And Rock thinks I'm just being a smartass that they told me that I was told don't talk about wrestling, and I did it anyway. So it was a misunderstanding. And to this day, I feel really bad about it because had I known not to talk about wrestling, I wouldn't talk about wrestling because I don't want to make the guy feel bad. But yeah, true story. The Rock threatened to kick my ass. I don't blame him. It's water under the bridge. It's actually a very funny story. Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live. It's Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live, a couple minutes left. One of my favorite podcasts is John McAdam, and I really enjoy what he does each and every week on his podcast. It's my favorite. This week, they were talking about WWE in 1982. And it's just fascinating because on Stick to Wrestling, they had Buddy Rogers' Corner. Buddy Rogers, WWE champion, back in 1961, the first one. He was also NWA champion in the 1950s. And he was like, 50 years old as he's doing this interview segment. And he had heart problems. He wasn't going to wrestle. But you look at Buddy Rogers making an appearance in 1982, 20 years after he was world champion, 30 years maybe, 25 or so after his peak on the TV era. And he was so old back then. And if you want to compare it, you look at how many guys would be Buddy Rogers today. Chris Jericho, AJ Styles, Edge, Sting. Hell, Sting is practically George Hackenschmidt. It is amazing how the lifespans have changed and people are living longer and the stages in life have changed. And I think we'll see more wrestlers who are wrestling longer for longer periods of time. But it's just crazy to think, you look back, first WrestleMania in 1985, there was nobody from the 1940s. And now so many people from the 90s and 2000s still wrestling today. An amazing time. Talk to you next weekend. I'll be back because of the fans. Jim Valley, Wrestling Observer Live. Thanks, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, bye.